COVID-19 as a global event has caused many to face the threat of loss of income, housing, and overall stability. Anyone who's experienced houselessness in their lifetime can tell you that this threat doesn't get any easier the more you experience it. However, something that can help is an organization like Street Roots, a Portland-based nonprofit organization which empowers folks experiencing houselessness by publishing and organizing distribution of a weekly newspaper covering topics such as social justice, housing, the environment, culture, opinion, podcasts, and vendor profiles. It features creative work by the vendors themselves and directly supports their financial independence and social well-being. It is a well-researched and well-written source of vital information, not just for those facing houselessness, but for anyone interested in any of those aforementioned topics. After their initial orientation, vendors purchase copies of the weekly newspaper for 25 cents a piece and sell them for $1 throughout the Portland area. According to the nonprofit's website, around 180 vendors are selling the paper during any given week, and over the course of the year, over 800 vendors sell papers for their own profit. According to the official website of the city of Portland, the chronic homeless population has decreased by 17% over the past 2 years, which is good news. However, the number of unsheltered African Americans has increased 48% in those last 2 years, which indicates a broadening of the socioeconomic gap between groups of folks with different colored skin, which has further negatively impacted an already marginalized community in this country, state, and city, all of which have a history of violence, socioeconomic and otherwise, against African Americans. As we saw this summer, the Black Lives Matter movement is a necessary step in righting past wrongs and adjusting the social landscape which was built by racism and xenophobia and cruelty and brutality. As an organization built to help those facing houselessness, the Street Roots vendors are supporting themselves and the program, which has helped so many get off their feet, put food in their belly, afford to stay in a shelter overnight. Especially now, it's December, it's getting colder, it's getting wetter, it's becoming untenable to live outside. And after so long of social isolation, if you're a person who is accustomed to regular social interaction that felt healthy, and you had that taken away from you since COVID began, the lockdowns began back in March, 9-10 months ago, you may begin to understand the isolation experienced by a person who is living on the streets, who does not have a family to live with or housemates or roommates, someone who doesn't have a job where they show up and get social interaction regularly. Street Roots does have a writers group weekly that comes together and organizes projects for the publication. People are able to express themselves and support each other. But aside from that, I urge anyone watching this video to go out into their community. This is one of a network of organizations like this particular nonprofit. There are hundreds of these organizations throughout the United States that publish these papers that allow vendors to support themselves easily. I hope that you go out, research where you might be able to find someone selling these papers, or if you happen across someone who is a vendor selling these newspapers, spend the $1. Find $1 and give it to this person. Read something in that newspaper, educate yourself on one of these many topics that are written about, locally, statewide, nationally, globally relevant. Take it upon yourself to actually spend some time with someone who is selling these newspapers to support themselves. Think about how isolating this year may have been to you during the COVID lockdowns and the social distancing, and try to understand how isolating the life of this person may have been. And think about how much your day can turn around when someone talks to you, when someone gives you conversation, how that conversation can change your entire day. A connection can lift your mood for days to come, and how that could literally save the life of a homeless person whose chances of being suicidal are estimated to be 9 times that of the US general population, according to the Harvard Public Health Review in 2014. The American Psychology Association reported in 2019 that there is robust evidence that social isolation and loneliness significantly increase risk for mortality, and the magnitude of the risk exceeds that of many leading health indicators. By connecting with someone experiencing social isolation, even from 6 feet away, even from behind a mask, you can improve their health and maybe even your own if you've been social distancing for pandemic safety. Find someone who sells a Street Roots magazine. Educate yourself, read an article, revisit this person, come back with $1 the next week, have a talk about something that you read about, engage with your community, hear the marginalized voices that are being expressed in that paper, and immerse yourself in a COVID life, because we've done enough withdrawing.